Well, I want to talk about a harder time with your parents. When your mum had a stroke when you were in your late 40s, and for the last 7 years of her life was essentially trapped in a mostly wordless existence.
Yes, that's true.
Except for a couple of occasions where she was able to communicate with you.
It's a terrible thing when you lose your speech. And my mother was such a warm and lively person that for her it was particularly dreadful. And I remember she wanted to tell me something and she just couldn't think of what it was. And we were shopping in Fine Fair in Summertown in Oxford. And I was pushing her in the wheelchair and she was moving the wheel with her hand, and she was looking on the shelves and looking on the shelves, and she couldn't find it. And I had to go and get something from another part of the shop, and I left her for a minute, and suddenly I heard this scream coming from where she was, and she was calling out, "Jam! Jam! Jam!" Oh, it makes me sad.
So suddenly voice, and not
yes. Again. She found her voice, and it was for something like that, and it was just the sadness of it. Do you understand what I mean? It was just so sad.
A couple of years ago, I went to visit my father's oldest friend after my father had died, and he was a very witty man, a former editor of the Manchester Guardian, and he'd had a stroke. And I went to lunch with him and his wife, and even though everything was alive inside him, all he could say, no matter what he said, were just these words: "Chira, chira, chira, low, low, low." He just, in different cadences, he'd repeated. And I found that profoundly unsettling. I could see what was in the eyes, but it wasn't in the mouth.
Well, you and I, who make our livings with what we say, particularly understand how terrible it is when that no longer can be. But because of what happened in my own life, I think it's given me compassion, really, that I wouldn't know about. And so I try to do a lot of visiting of hospitals and going to see people in this state. And I don't think it would have happened without my mother's sadness.
Twice, you wrote about this for a newspaper, twice you hit your mother, the woman you most loved in the world. How did that happen?
It was just frustration on both our parts. And I tell the story not at all because I'm proud. I'm deeply ashamed of it. But I think a lot of people are in this situation, and I talk about it so that people don't feel so alone. But I can't remember the exact situation. She was grabbing at me. She had one hand that she could use. It was very strong, and she was grabbing at me. And I was trying to say something to her or ask her to do something, and she wouldn't. And I just lost my temper. I lost control. And it's shocking. I mean, I am, how can I ever hold my head up? But I did it. And then I rushed out of the house because as soon as I'd done it, I knew how awful it was. And she forgave me.
When you wrote about it, what kind of response did you get?
Well, a lot of people wrote in and said that they had felt the same thing. And that made me feel a bit better. I mean, I wrote about it to help a charity. That's why I talked about it, because in England there's a charity called Crossroads, which I'm a patron of, and it's to provide respite care for people who are looking after somebody for 24 hours a day. And people do that, and it tears their lives apart. And so that's the only reason I did it, because it was to raise awareness of the plights of carers. But I am a very wicked woman.
No, you're a very human woman.
Well, human, perhaps, but it was not right.
Did a part of you want your mum to die?
Oh, yes. Because she couldn't speak, and she was mental, and her life was no life. It wasn't. And so I did want her to die.
And when she did, how did you feel?
Lost.
After Ruth died, you and Joe, your dad, you never talked about your mum?
No, we couldn't. I don't know what it is. You know, my father was completely different from me and my mother. He was locked emotionally in himself. I mean, I remember saying to him, Daddy, what's your interior life like? And he said, oh, don't be ridiculous. You know, the idea of an interior life to him was nonsense. So we never did speak about that, about losing my mother. Because I think we would have just cried, you know, there was nothing we could say. But it's pathetic that we didn't. We should have done. And I should have been more of a comfort to him than I was.
Well, you nursed him to his death. And as you said, you were able to pay for around-the-clock care for him. You still carry a picture of him with you, is that right?
How did you know that? I do. He's on my telephone. He's my screensaver on my Nokia.
What would he make of that?
I don't know. I think he'd be pleased. He was a lovely man.
You are 66?
66, and that's not my waist.
Does the finiteness of time and life seem more apparent to you?
Oh, yes. Yes, I think I'm much more reflective than I was. How old are you?
47. Bits of me are older.
Well, you'll find as you get older, and I'm sure you do, that you think about how long will I last? How will I die? How will I be remembered? Have I done enough? Who have I hurt? Who have I been unkind to? And what should I do about it? How many people are coming to my funeral? You know. Will it be a full house?
I'm sure you'll get a standing ovation. So all these thoughts, how do they shape your choices and the way you choose to conduct your life now?
Well, I think I'm very choosy now about my work. I won't do crap. If you think I do crap, will you write me and tell me?
So no more sexy Sonias?
Oh, no, that's gone a long time. No more of those. No, I want to do good stuff and tell the truth and be brave. Go on being brave. That's what I want.
Well, you are manifestly that. I said at the start I was looking forward to this. You are everything I expected and so much more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very nice of you.
That was such a treat. Thank you.
Thank you very much.